Andrea Burt decides to put the little chip through, and that could be very intelligent from Magali Harvey. It's rolling towards that touchline, but Harvey's managed to keep it in, and we've got our first try of the match. Towards the referee, and it's a good little jinking run from Garcia, but she's coughed it up to Harvey, and this could be a race for the line from Harvey. She's looking to try and get a second. The chase is from Caban. She's not going to make it. It's second try for Canada and second try for Magali Harvey. Do to gather, she's tried to thread a little ball through there. It's perhaps meant to be a kick for it's Magali Harvey who's managed to break away again with it here. Harvey's going to get her hat-trick before half-time. Goodness me.
The Canada look to bring it away through Marchak, looking for Harvey. Harvey's away over the 22, giving chases Mayons. Harvey inside Ledouf, launches away. Magali Harvey, can she go all the way in at the corner? Canada score! What a fantastic try!
Welcome back to the Canadian Ruck. This is Jamie Gray coming at you live from Ross, New Brunswick. And as you might have guessed it from listening to that little intro, or if you're watching on YouTube, that's Magali Harvey. That's our guest today. There she is right there holding up the World Rugby Player of the Year back in 2014. Canada women took silver in France. She's an exciting guest. We're going to have her on in a little bit. Before we get there, though, just some semantics. Remember, if you need to contact us, we're on Twitter at Canadian Ruck, Instagram, _Canadian_Ruck, Facebook at The Canadian Ruck, and email thecanadianruck@gmail.com. Love hearing from the listeners, so anytime you want to have a question or have something you want to say, feel free to reach out. As always, you can watch, listen, follow, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Podcasts, and CastBox, which is our primary source there. So before we get any further, we're just going to take a break, and we're going to actually spin the wheel and check out and see who wins one of our lucky hats, Canadian Ruck hats. And remember, to win one of these, you had to, send me a message via social media or Facebook to have your name entered in, and we've had a few. So I'm going to click the button here, and this will spin and give us an undecided winner at the time. So stay tuned and watch this one go. And the winner is Alex McQuinn. Alex McQuinn of the Blau Rovers. Very random, very good choice. And Alex will be getting a hat to you at some point soon. Cheers. All right, so congratulations, Ginge. Good job on you for winning that bucket. We'll get that to you here soon. And right now we're just going to look and see what's in the news for rugby-wise around the world. There's been a few things. I'm going to start homeland in Canada, and basically Rugby Canada, they're looking at a return to play policy right now. I think it's kind of contingent on what provinces' health regulations are. As you know, New Brunswick, where I am, we've been very fortunate with COVID-19. We've been doing really well. Little things like the malls opened up, things like that. So people are getting a little excited. So hopefully it doesn't, blow up in our faces, and we take it smoothly. But basically, with looser lockdown restrictions, Rugby Canada's trying to look at different ways we can get the game going again. And I think they're looking at some simple ways, maybe starting with flag rugby, a non-contact version where there's, minimal contact, and eventually work our way to 7s and 15s. That would be nice for the fall season if we can get there. So hopefully Rugby Canada's on top of everything with regards to health and health regulations, and hopefully each provincial union follows the guidelines so that we can get some rugby back on the pitch, and we can, the boys and girls can get out and play, and we can enjoy the game again. But that's coming from us because it's New Zealand. New Zealand as a country has been one of the, I guess they've been doing really, really well in the light of COVID and what's been going on. And they're actually, instead of the Super Rugby starting up, New Zealand's actually going to start up their own round robin. And you can see there, it's beginning on Saturday, June 13th. So I've got the full schedule here if you want to take a look for a quick second there. Round 1, starting on June 13th and 14th, you got the Highlanders and Chiefs and Blues and Hurricanes. And reigning 3-time champs Crusaders have a bye. The Chiefs, if you know, is Tyler Ardron, Sammy Cannon, Lachlan Bozier, who are past guests, so they open the tournament with a match via the Highlanders. And then, you got round 2, 3, 4, and 5 matches, and that will take you right to round 10, which finishes August 15th. All right, so the Chiefs have a bye that last round, but there's about 10 weeks of rugby for us coming up. Some things that New Zealand is looking at for their action is they're going to have chartered planes for each of the teams to travel back and forth to the games. It's a home and home, as you could tell by looking at this if you're watching on YouTube, but it's a home and home series versus each team throughout the tournament, throughout the round robin. They're also going to do daily COVID-19 checks, checking on their players every day, checking their vitals to make sure that they are healthy and making sure that they are able and fit to play so that they're not spreading any disease if they happen to come into contact, which hopefully they don't. I imagine as of now they're in their second phase. I'm not sure New Zealand's regulations, if that means they're allowed to have some fans in the stadiums. I'm assuming as of now the games are I'm pretty certain the games are just going to be televised with no fans there. So we'll be seeing some action here in Canada. It's on TSN on demand, which will be great. I believe there's a few other options other than just TSN, but definitely get some rugby here happening soon. And a couple of players of interest. Ben Smith has left France, and he's coming back to New Zealand. He's going to be playing in this by the looks of it. And Julian Sevilla has left as well, and he hasn't signed anywhere, but he's looking to play. Julian Sevilla is a very exciting player, and Ben Smith is a very rugged veteran. So both of those players are going to bolster some lineup down in New Zealand, that's for sure. Elsewhere, World Rugby just came out within the last 24 hours. I don't think this is a big surprise. This has been something that's been up in the air for quite a while, but they're eliminating tries when you're grounded at the posts. This has been slowly phasing out. Quite a few years ago, you could just touch the post, then you could actually, for a try, then you could touch the ball to the base of the post on the ground for the try. But now they've eliminated that. I think more than anything, it's a safety issue. It's dangerous and around the post, even with the paddings. It can be a scary place at times. So they are looking to revitalize the game, and that's one of the things they're taking out. And one of the things that was taken out was the Augustine Pichot. We spoke about this before. I've said all along this. I think Augustine would be a great guy for World Rugby chair. He didn't get it. He lost out on votes to Sergio Beaumont, who was returning for his second tour 4 years. I think Bill does have some good ideas, but I think Pichot would have been that driving catalyst to revitalize the game throughout the world, not just in Europe. Whether you believe European rugby is the best or Southern Hemisphere is the best, I think Pichot looked at it like we needed to be the best all over the place, not just different demographics. Unfortunately, he basically said, "I'm done. The vision I want isn't going to happen. There's no sense in me occupying a space." Because of that, just for the sense of occupying a space. So he's stepping back. He's going to devote more time to family, he says, and he's also going to be looking into, keeping active with the game back in Argentina. So it's a shame. It's a loss for World Rugby for sure. Maybe in a couple of years we'll see him again. Who knows? It'd be nice because I think he's got a lot of expertise and a lot of great ideas to bring forth to the game. So hats off to you, Augustine, for trying, but maybe another time. And that brings us up to our special guest this week. And this week, as you know, we've got Magali Harvey, dynamic player. This is a real gift for her. I think the game against France in the semifinals against France back in 2014, but she is a 2014 Female World Rugby Player of the Year. She won silver that year with Canada at the 2014 Rugby World Cup. Again, was hosted in France. She also got a 2015 Pan Am Gold. Also, she had a variety of top 3 finishes in the World 7 Series. Very dynamic player, very intelligent winger, fast, dynamic, ankle-breaking moves, and great interview. Very, very, very knowledgeable of the game. She coaches also university, and she's still very active in the game, and very fun athlete to watch and chat with. So hopefully you enjoy. Hopefully you'll enjoy this conversation and sit back, relax, crack a beer, and enjoy my time with Magali Harvey. All right, so welcome back to the Canadian Ruck. We're fortunate this pod that we have Magali Harvey, National Team Canada icon, won Player of the Year in 2014, the same year Canada won a silver medal. So very much pleased to have you on the pod with us today, Magali. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. All right, so you began playing rugby, I think it was around the age 16 I saw. Why did you choose rugby?
That's a great question. So at the time I was in high school, and my high school kind of offered a sport every season. So say in the fall, I don't know, it was soccer, and then in the winter it'd be basketball, and then in the spring there was nothing, and suddenly rugby got introduced. So it's kind of like all the players who go from soccer to basketball were like, hey, what's this new sport? And I was one of them, so I kind of joined in not knowing what it was. And you kind of like go on the internet and you see people, the internet kind of shows you the worst highlights of people getting smashed, so you're not too sure. So
Yes.
when I started, I was not too sure I wanted to play, but I ended up joining because of my friends.
So what high school did you go to?
I went to St. Patrick's High School in Quebec City.
Okay. So yeah, that's I coach high school rugby, and that's one of the things the new players always ask. Can you show me some highlights, something like that? And I try and show I try and show them games from previous seasons that our team has played. So not to intimidate anybody. So we were talking about this before recording, but you went to St. FX first in Nova Scotia, and you started playing rugby there as well. Did you win a national championship there?
Yeah, I did. I guess I was in a lucky year because at the time there were probably 8 players that were in Canada under 20 team, and they were just going all to St. FX. So it was kind of a nice transfer of playing Canada and then going to university with the same team. So we had a pretty strong team, and of the 3 years I played there, I think we were in the finals 3 times, won twice, and lost once. So I guess it was a good season.
That's pretty awesome. So from there, you're now at Concordia, and you're finishing up your degrees, but you're also coaching. Is that correct?
I am coaching. It's a bit of a contrast. So I coach at McGill University, and I attend Concordia University in my studies. It just so happened that the program that I wanted to get into was not offered at McGill.
Okay, that's fair. So are you still playing rugby right now? Because you're still relatively young.
I mean, there's a quarantine going on, so no.
Well, aside from that.
No, well, I don't know. It's been quite confusing, right? Because you kind of, I guess your priorities kind of change in those circumstances and stuff. So for a bit, I was debating whether to go to the World Cup, not to go to the World Cup, see how it goes. And now I don't know, because the Olympics moving on 1 year later, which probably means that the other rugby events are going to be pushed back.
Right.
So I guess it's to be TBD.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So let's walk us through. You played in the 2014 Rugby World Cup, which was the same year you won IRB, the World Rugby Player of the Year. Can you walk us through that experience of the 2014 World Cup where your team earned silver?
For sure. So the first thing that people have to understand is that when you notice a team for the first time, it's that they've been doing all of the hard work for a long time. You notice them once it's starting to pay off. So this 2014 team, they were around. We played together for a long time and were on many tours from 2011 to 2014. It was the same team pretty much. And at the time, the sevens team and the 15s team were kind of competing together for players. Most of the sevens players chose to stay in the sevens program so that they could solely focus on sevens for the Olympics. A few of us decided to do sevens and 15s, and others, obviously like the forwards, mostly decided to just do 15. Decided. But yeah, so it was kind of like a really cool and close-knit team, because every single player that was on the team was there because they wanted to. They weren't getting paid. They didn't get any government funding. Sometimes they had to pay to play. Sometimes they just had to figure things out. And because they were trying to save money, that team ended up going the sketchiest locations when it came to staying in places, because it was cheaper, right?
Yes.
you don't realize it, but it kind of really helps to bond the team together, because you end up having so many inside jokes, and like you have to stay humble. You have to.
Right.
Yeah, so that was kind of like the mindset. And we kept telling ourselves, well, actually, our coach, François Ratier at the time, kept kind of like referring to us as the difference between, what was it again? It was like a team of star players versus a star team. Kind of like the context that everyone together was what created our strength, as opposed to like star players that made it worthwhile.
Right.
So going into 2014, it was kind of interesting because no one thought we would get anywhere. And our minds were kind of focusing on just going process, game by game, minute by minute, and we just wanted to, I guess, prove to ourselves that we could get there. So I remember kind of, I don't know, our first pool matches, kind of like our first 3 matches were against, I think, Samoa, Spain, and England. And we ended up tying against England, which already there, people were like, oh, was it luck? And obviously as a team, you're kind of like, screw you guys, it wasn't.
True.
Yeah. But anyway, so we ended up tying, which brought us to kind of like the semifinals. And the semifinals was obviously against France, and this World Cup is in France, so everyone is so excited to have the French team beat the Canadians, you know, like in their mind it's like, this is so convenient, we're gonna go there and go straight to the finals. And I remember that game was amazing. It was so cool because we were in this huge stadium. It was jam-packed with blue, like blue everywhere you went. You couldn't really hear yourselves. But I guess when you're on that field, you kind of forget everything that's around you. You just kind of, you're in the moment. So to me, that game was kind of a blur. Everyone was focused on doing their job and kind of like weren't stressed. It just felt right to be there. It felt like we deserved it, and just no one knew.
No, that's. I remember watching most of those games, 6 years ago, and watching your team march straight to the finals there, and it was an amazing feat for your squad. Maria Sampson was on a podcast earlier, and she spoke pretty highly of it and highly of you, and. It's kind of, for me, I mean, I obviously wasn't there. I wasn't part of the team, but it stirred up some of those national feelings of how well that your team actually did in the 2014 Cup. It was awesome. So that same year, you also won the IRB Player of the Year award. What does that mean to you? That's pretty highly amazing.
I mean, I wish I could say like, oh, it means the world. To be honest with you, I didn't really care. And what I mean by that is I was so busy being disappointed for our team.
Yeah.
And the individual award like doesn't mean anything in rugby when you think about it. If you look good in rugby, it's because there were like the rest of the team made you look good. So I remember kind of like one of the pictures that they took, I just have a bitter face as I'm holding this trophy, which sounds ridiculous, possibly obnoxious, but at the time I found myself being disappointed. And as for the trophy, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting experience, because as soon as you get that award, for one, people start to notice you. And sometimes good, sometimes bad. So from that moment on, as soon as I made a mistake, it wasn't like, oh, unfortunately, the winger made a mistake. It was like, the best player in the world made this mistake. Or like, say you do something good, it's like, well, we expected it because she's the best player in the world, right? And it's kind of ironic, because from that moment on, that's all that people talk about. So it doesn't matter, say you do something really, really good in 2017, 2018, like way later, people will always be like, do you remember that run that you did, like, I don't know, like 6 years ago? And you got to be like, yes, of course, this is great.
I think that was circulated around on Twitter there earlier this week.
Yeah. I know, it's made a comeback, and I'm like, why?
Well, it is a beautiful try.
Yeah, for sure. It took me some time actually to appreciate the try as much as I should have. You know, like when you watch it a few times, you're like, oh yeah, it's fine. And actually, I watched it this year after a long time, because I was over watching it, I guess. And it really fascinated me, just like the way that like it happened. the fact that like we were so unlucky. Speaking of Maria, she was the one who knocked on the ball at like 10 meters from our try line, and I was like, oh my god, no, this was a kickoff. This is one thing you cannot do. And yeah, from that moment on of just like winning the scrum, which like we hadn't won any of the scrums so far. Like it was interesting that the ball just came out, and then just the situation was perfect for something to happen. It was really cool.
Well, from a fan's perspective, and to me, it was one of those plays that kind of, I guess, demonstrates how prolific of a runner and a player you are. Anytime I saw you catch the ball, I thought something amazing was going to happen. You're such a beautiful and powerful runner that the anticipation when you got that ball was something magical was going to happen. And more often than not, it did. It was, you were always a pleasure to watch, absolutely. So, you know, whether you've moved on past those things or not, you know, you can still take solace and pride in the fact that you had an amazing time with Canada and maybe some more times to come. But that was definitely a highlight to watch those for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. A little bit different of a question. Athletes are often superstitious. I know I was when I played club rugby and stuff. I always put my left sock on first and my right sock, you know, just little idiosyncrasies. Did you ever have any superstitions? Or do you have any superstitions?
I used to have one, and it sounds terrible because it's kind of like an eye roll. I used to straighten my hair before every game.
Okay, I can't do that.
Clearly.
Nice.
But I don't know why I wanted to have like the slickest ponytail, and it's hilarious because as soon as you make one tackle, it's all over the place, right? But I had to start like in this perfect ponytail that had hairspray that just looked great, and that sounds so girly, but yeah, that's what I did, and I wore the same sports bra every single game.
You washed it, right?
Yes.
That's okay then. All right, so the next little section, we kind of have a little bit of fun. So it's a quick fire scenario where I'm gonna give you a phrase, and you have to give me like one or two words of what you think your answer is. So some of it's rugby based, some of it's more individual based, kind of to get at your personality. Okay.
Nerve-wracking. Okay. Let's do
All right.
it.
Best team you ever faced.
New Zealand.
Best player you ever faced.
Portia Woodman.
Best match you were a part of.
World Cup 2014 semifinal against France.
Fair enough. All right, 15s or 7s?
15s.
Chips or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Light, dark, or white?
White.
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 That's rare. That's good. All right.
I mean, you got to show that you did work. I'm not thinking of like a white rugby jersey. Well, you know if someone is slacking.
Fair enough. Favorite beer?
I don't like beer, so I don't know. I'm going to say Budweiser because it's pretty much the only one I know.
Okay. All right. What's a guilty pleasure?
I really enjoy playing Xbox. Like,
Okay.
especially during this quarantine, there's nothing to do, so I started playing Xbox.
What games?
Right now, I'm playing The Witcher 3, which is like an open world. It's so fascinating.
That's fair. Okay. You are in university, so you know that makes sense.
Yeah, shit.
Best place for a drink after a match?
Probably the clubhouse. I feel like there's so many random people that show up, and you never know what's going to happen.
Absolutely. What series are you binge watching right now?
I'm watching Westworld. Have you seen it?
No, I hear it's good though.
Is this the time when I try to sell it to you, or like?
You can if you are. You in it?
I mean, I really like Westworld because it's kind of the concept of they created robots that do not know that they're robots, and they program them so that they kind of like create an adventure for you. So you enter this world kind of like a video game, and those robots are there to kind of serve you and be like, hey, I have this amazing adventure, like we're going to find a bounty. So you kind of get to play video games in real life. And obviously some people do terrible things to the robots who do not know that they're robots. But yeah, I really like the show. It's very interesting.
So I'm assuming eventually the robots try and take over.
Wow, you're good.
All right. Who's your favorite musician?
Right now I really like this New Zealand band. It's called 660.
Okay. What kind of music do they play?
Like kind of a bit reggae, a bit kind of chill, relaxed, indie. It's really hard to explain, but like I recommend you listen to them.
660. I'll look it up. All right. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I have a few, but I really like Slumdog Millionaire.
Okay. Fair enough. That's a good one.
I really liked Avatar, kind of like the one with the James Cameron movie.
I only get about halfway through that.
Oh yeah, that's okay. I found during that movie, I found myself kind of watching and not wanting it to end, just because it was so cool.
Okay.
And the last one is kind of sci-fi. It's kind of this. I don't even know if it's the sixth or the fifth element.
Yeah, with Bruce Willis.
Yes, exactly.
The 90s. Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Who would play you in the Netflix movie of your life?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't know. I can't say I thought about it before. I'm guessing they would have to be a colored person. Who's out there?
It's all on you. That's fair. Tyler Ardron, when I asked him this question, he couldn't answer it either.
All right. Will Smith with a wig. There you go.
How about Jada Pinkett Smith?
That's what she could do.
Okay. So would Will be the leading man in the movie then?
Leading woman.
All right. The last one. Who had the biggest impact on you as a player?
So I'm lucky and unlucky in the sense that when I first joined the national team, I was the only university player that was part of the team. I was also the youngest. And I joined this team where my teammates were all the players that I looked up to when I first started. You know, like the Mandy Marchaks, the Barbara Mervins, where I was just kind of like, oh my God, those players are amazing. And suddenly I got to be by their side. So I think in their own way, they kind of all influenced me and kind of like made me the player that I was, because they were definitely my role models, and I practiced with them all the time. So they kind of made me a better player.
So it's almost like a collective veteran group that really helped you understand the national game and what it means to be a national player.
Yeah, but not just like on the field, off the field as well, just kind of like in terms of maturity and kind of becoming an adult, because I started, like, I just left home and started university and had no idea how to live by myself or cook or anything, you know, so.
No more craft dinner.
No.
All right, so that's it for the quick fire. I've got a few questions left here. So this next one kind of ties in with the biggest impact on you, but what are your thoughts on what makes a great team player?
I have a lot of thoughts, and I think it's a mix of being a coach and being a player. So back in the days, I used to think that someone that was really, really athletic was probably going to be one of your best players. And the more that I coached, the more I realized that that's not really accurate. How I see it is the work ethic, just how hard that player is willing to work. So it doesn't matter if you have an amazing player that scores all the try, if they don't do the work outside, if they don't show the right example to the players, then it kind of like ends up negatively affecting a team. So now I'd say work ethic is what makes an amazing player. That, like, they might not be the fastest, they might not be the strongest, they might not be the most skilled, but like because they just keep pushing, they actually do get better, and they kind of bring everyone with them.
So somebody with a real high level of dedication to improvement.
Yeah, for sure.
So can you name some great players that remind you of what you're describing to me, that you played with?
For sure. So I'm going to use Karen Paquin. I might be biased. She's one of my good friends, but Erin's one of those players that, like, she's crazy. And what I mean by that is that she'll just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So, like, if there's I don't know, a record, it's not, oh yeah, I want to get to that record. It's, what do I have to do to beat that record? And just being around her, like, oh, she's always finding a way to make it better, a way to improve, a way to push herself harder. And I think that was by far, like, I don't know, very inspiring, and at the same time, like, oh my God, you're crazy.
Oh, it's impressive. It sounds like she's great at creating like micro goals in order to help them achieve those larger goals.
Yeah, for sure.
That's really cool. How important is a coach, seeing how you're a coach now, how important is the role of the coach on a team?
I think coaches are really important at every level. Sometimes people just think that coaches are there to, like, develop skills, but I think the main reason why coaches are so important is because they create the team culture. Players unknowingly end up reflecting a lot of what the coach thinks, and sometimes coaches don't realize the impact that they have on those players. So sometimes it might be good, sometimes it might be bad, but I'd say that coaches have a huge impact in team morale and team leadership and kind of like the actions of their players. And then obviously, if they know their rugby, it's even better. If they don't, I still think that there's room for improvement, you know. But in terms of like the actual team mindset, coaches play a huge role in that.
Who are some great coaches you played for?
I'd say that my favorite was François Ratier. And the reason why is kind of, I guess it's my style of coaching. What I like is that he'll give you a toolkit. And what I mean by that is, like, he'll show you how to step, he'll show you how to pass, he'll show you how to do things, but he'll say, like, I've given you the tools, and I want you to figure out, like, when you want to use them. And so because it's not, I guess a dictatorship is the best word for it, but, you know, it's kind of like free. You get to decide when you want to use them. It kind of gives you the freedom to try things. And you get comfortable trying things, and the more you try things, the better you get at it. And what I really enjoyed from that coach was that it was okay to mess up. Making mistakes was all part of it. And, like, yeah, obviously learn from that mistake, but it wasn't the reprimand to the point where you just get tossed on the side and replaced by someone. Had another coach in New Zealand. It sounds terrible. I don't even remember his name now. But he was the same mindset. So I played one season for Waikato in New Zealand, and it was that same kind of mentality of, yeah, I see your strength. We're going to develop your strength so that you get even stronger. And then once you're on the field, you're on your own. Like, I'm there. I'll wave at you, but you make your own decision. And I think that makes a huge difference because it gives players the confidence to try things and to kind of understand the game, not just be told what to do on the field.
Absolutely. You can't learn if you don't make mistakes.
For sure.
And that's one of the things I always tell my players is that there are no such things as mistakes if you learn from it, as then it's just a learning moment in your life. And try and give players the freedom to try things and be creative, with tools that they have.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, I really enjoyed it, was team culture. You say the coach plays a huge role in developing team culture. I guess talk to us what you think a really great and strong team culture is.
I mean, this is a tricky one, right? I think that team culture will depend on every team. You know, it really depends on the personality of your players. And that culture should adapt depending on what type of players you have. But in general, I suppose team culture has to do with connection. And it's not just connection on the field, it's also connection off the field, whereby players end up hanging out together. They know each other. They know what's going on in one another's life so that they can back one another. And I guess, like, the best way I can say it is kind of like being a good person.
Yeah.
just doing the right thing and knowing that like everyone on this team will back you for the decision you made, but also the decision you are making is selfless. You're doing it for the good of the team or the good on the outside in general.
Absolutely. It's a shame when only one or two people can ruin the culture of a team.
Yeah.
I think as coaches, we've all seen those players. How do you combat something like that when you come across, one or two players that are very individual mindset, that are kind of going against the rest of the culture that the team is actually, I guess, leading with?
I mean, it's very counterintuitive, I suppose, to do it that way, but I found that it worked quite well. Sometimes I put them in leadership position where I force them to have to include players where they can't just do things on their own.
Right.
This said, sometimes it also backfires because you have those great leaders on the team who kind of are like, but why? Why
Yeah.
would you give that role to someone else? Sometimes it's important to talk to those players. And like it surprises me that someone would not realize the way that they act around the team, but sometimes it does happen where the players are just so absorbed with themselves that they don't know. And if it doesn't work, I am sorry to say it that way, but it's way better not to have that type of player on a team because it really does destroy an atmosphere, and so much energy is spent. Well, not yours, but your players' energy is spent on, I guess, bitching. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
Kind of feeling frustrated that there are double standards on the team.
And it would be very taxing on the coach as well, because you're invested in the team and you're trying to make sure that those players are also taking part of the team culture. So if that doesn't happen, it can be very hard on you, probably coaching philosophy wise. And
For sure, but so I coach women, and I find that, well, right now I coach women. I've coached men too, but one of the main differences I find is that women keep a lot to themselves, in the sense like they will not share with a coach until it's really bad. It has to get really bad before something happens and the coach finds out. So sometimes I find it taxing because you can see that there's somewhat of a passive aggressive element. You kind of have to read between the lines because no one will show you the written words of what's going on. Yeah, so it's taxing and you might not even know it, is what I'm getting at here.
No, that's absolutely fair. What do you want to be remembered for as a athlete? Like, 50 years down the road, what's a story? By the sounds of it, you're not big on, past glories, but what would you like your teammates to remember you for, or, your generations of family members to remember you for?
That's a great question. I think I want to be remembered for kind of being a positive, kind of bringing the mood up, and for being cheeky. So,
Give an example of that.
So, when I was on the national team, I made it my purpose to prank people. And I think sometimes, like, it sounds silly, but pranking is one of the best ways to get everyone together. Kind of like, play jokes on people where people talk about it, laugh about it, have fun. So this one time, it was a tour. It was in October, so it was close to Halloween. And I decided that I was going to take Rugby Canada gear and stuff it with clothes. And I'd bought a mask. So I'd put a mask, and then we had a team common room, and a breakfast room. So I had left that stuffed doll, I suppose, that was human size because it was stuffed, into the common room a few days before Halloween. So people got used to it. And then on the day of Halloween, I had my teammate, like, I woke up really early in the morning before people got to breakfast, and I had my teammate help me, like, stuff myself with the doll, and I just stayed there. And I waited until, like, people were there, and then obviously, like, my goal was to scare people, and that doll was kind of like sitting next to people, so at some point I kind of like came in. And it just kind of like made everyone laugh. Obviously, one of my teammates had a heart attack, but
No fights broken.
No. but it just kind of like creates this really fun morale, I guess. And sometimes you need that on a team. It makes a big difference in terms of
Absolutely. That's a great story. I usually ask, are there any great rugby stories? Something about camaraderie, and I think you've answered that. That's a. I don't know how I would have responded. I don't know if I would have screamed or if I would have like pushed you away. Like I'm not sure where I went with that one. That's good. Talk to us about your affiliation with the Lifetime Networks charity.
Sure. So I don't know what to tell you. It's it's gonna sound terrible, but here it is. I think I wanted a scholarship or I wanted something, and unfortunately it was asking for volunteer work. And I had not done volunteer work, and I was like, oh my God, I need to add volunteer work to my resume. You know, those are things you don't admit, right? Anyways, so, you know, here I am, I kind of signed up, and then I connect with so the network kind of like, you connect to someone with a disability and you start hanging out with them.
Okay.
And
so it sounds like the story's getting better.
So you hang out, and my person was like, Stephen was 50.
Okay.
And he just kind of he was slightly autistic. And so he was very, very concentrated on like reading and asking all those questions. And at the beginning, I was overwhelmed. I had no idea what I was supposed to do. And then it really grew on me where it didn't feel like volunteer work anymore. It was kind of like, oh, I'm going to go hang out with this person. So in the end, I did not write it on my CV. I kept doing it because I enjoyed it, and kind of like, if I had a small team event where we were supposed to, I don't know, the Terry Fox run, I would just bring Stephen with me.
Awesome.
And then we'd go to the museum and he'd disappear, and I'd, you know, play hide and seek without knowing.
With him not actually playing.
No, he was just very interested in reading every single paper, and sometimes he just kind of wandered off. I don't know what I was up to, but clearly I wasn't. But
that's really cool, though. Lastly, we might edit this part out, but I was watching you on Instagram the other day, and you were riding a scooter with a friend or something. What was that about?
Yeah. So I started this new job, I guess, with Apollo Scooters. And it's basically like this company that sells e-scooters. And I was testing it out. So I just wanted to see how far it could go and, you know, kind of how fast it could go. And it was a really good time. I guess it's really different when you work for a company and when you try their product and you can be like, right. Oh, it does work.
It looked like you two were going quite fast.
Yeah, well, it's really surprising. Some of them, it's ridiculous. So some of their models actually go up to 50 kilometers to 60 kilometers an hour, and that's a plug-in, right? So like you literally use a plug, kind of like a laptop charger. That's what the charger looks like, right? And like you're saying that I can plug this in my wall as a laptop charger for like, I don't know, 6 to 8 hours, and it's gonna bring me for 60 kilometers at this distance, right?
Jeez.
I did not go at 50. It scares the crap out of me. I stayed at a solid 30 kilometers an hour, but like, it's quite fun. I really enjoyed it.
That's good. Well, that's it for me. Is there anything else you'd like to add or tell us about the story of Magali Harvey?
No, I think those are great questions. They kind of encompass the general idea of myself, I think.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I truly appreciate you having you on the podcast. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you nothing but the greatest of success.
Oh, thank you for having me once again.
That was awesome. It's always great diving into the women's game. I know in Canada it doesn't get as much play as it should, but it's gaining steam. Our women's program is, and a big part of that has been over the years has been Magali Harvey. So big thank you, Magali, for joining us today. Really enjoyed chatting with you. You know, all the interviews I've done so far, one of my favorites for sure. I love how personable she was, and willing to talk about almost anything, and just a smile that lights up the room. So thank you very much. Coming up next on our next few podcasts, we have Connor Trainer. I'll be chatting with him soon. Shortly after that, we have John Moonlight, and then shortly after that, we'll have the McKenzie brothers, Jamie and Phil. So they're going to be three great conversations that you're all going to want to listen to as well. As always, hats off to the essential workers, the support staffs, volunteers, anybody else that has been helping everybody get through the pandemic. Hats off to teachers, a little pat on my back for that one, as I'm a teacher as well. Firefighters, the police, everybody is kind of risking themselves to get us back into safer places and safer times. And it's been going great in New Brunswick. So thank you, everybody that's been helping. As always, thanks to Ben Sound Music for supplying our tunes. And as always, if you have a topic request or a guest you'd like to see, reach out to me and I'll do my best to get them on. And as always, this is Jamie. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane, and most importantly, keep on rocking.